Are we on? We're on. How are you, clowns? This one's been on my to-do list since, what, 2017? Let's see. Yeah, it's 1 in the morning. I had a couple hours before work. I got my coffee ready. Let's do it. All photos is my favorite speedrun category, and I'm assuming you're here because you want to learn about it. Before I start, there's a couple of things I want to say that I would have liked to know myself when I was first starting out. The first is all photos is basically a randomizer.
I forgot I had to reset for the ankle, and I reset it, and we got a typhoon the second time around, so I had to reset it again.
The pathway to all photos is never guaranteed, and sometimes you'll swear the game is conspiring against you, and you have to use your knowledge of the game to figure out if it's even possible to get around a certain roadblock, and then if it's even worth doing.
I was trying to talk to Karen, but the horse was there, so I just jumped on the horse, and then talked to Karen. It's not it's not run over, so it's gonna be a little bit of time loss, because I have to wait now until year 2, and then I have to raise horse affection with the cows, so I could still finish this, and it would just lose some time.
That's also why I love it so much, why it's so hard to make a tutorial for it, because you can't just memorize a route. Like, you'll get a different combination of NPC locations and weather every single time you reset, and each all photos run tells a different story. I love it. Second thing is, you gotta be cool with math. And I know this is probably super obvious, but I'm only saying it because some people are really proud of their inability to do math, and that's cool. Okay, you do you. But I want to emphasize that there's a lot more going on in the background than I think we let on sometimes. Throughout this video, I'll be using the term affection points. Most NPCs have a correlated byte value in memory that defaults to 0 at the start of each game and caps out at 255. It's similar to experience points, except that they're manipulated by certain events or character interactions. We call them affection points because we like to believe that these little data constructs have developed feelings for us. But it's just a reference number the game uses to make certain decisions. It's important to understand because so many events are triggered by affection value thresholds. If Maria's affection value is 159, you don't get the dream sequence. If the value is 160, you do. There's no gray area. And if you know the exact affection values, you can predict and even manipulate when certain events occur. For instance, it's necessary to trigger Maria's dream event on precisely the night of Winter 4 to perform the cow stealing glitch. The bad news is that there's no way to know exactly what an NPC's affection value is unless you were physically tracking it from the beginning, counting every gift, talk, or every other relevant interaction. The closest we've got is this little throbbing heart in the bottom corner of the Bachelorette dialog boxes, but each color represents a range of values. A yellow heart could mean a value of 159 and no dream sequence, or it could mean 160 and now you've busted the cow stealing glitch.
We have yellow. Yellow for caution.
As is tradition, you won't know which one it is until immediately after you saved, and now there's no going back.
Oh no!
And that's a pretty good lead into the third thing that I wish someone had told me before I started running this thing. Odds are you're going to fail a few times, and it's going to be for some silly, preventable reason a few hours into the run on an otherwise perfectly executed, perfect RNG run, and you have just a split-second lapse in judgment, and just like that, it's over.
I don't know if that's gonna cause any problems by talking to her on the horse. Oh no, it's a double event. So is this gonna teleport me into the town with the horse? That's totally what's gonna happen. Either that or the horse might just be gone. Alright, moment of truth. Am I actually gonna have the horse? I have the horse in the town. Oh no, horse is stuck in the town.
Or maybe you forget one little thing that happens to be an important little thing. Can you tell me what's wrong with this picture? Because I sure couldn't.
Girl. I don't have a baby bed.
Maybe you didn't make a mistake, but the game decides that you deserve 3 typhoons in a row.
Wow. The double. What?
You get the idea. There's 2 ways to look at it. One is that you just wasted the last few hours of your life because this game sucks, and your life sucks, and everything sucks.
Life is a series of closing doors, isn't it?
Or you could decide, okay, that was actually pretty funny, and I couldn't have planned that if I was trying to.
I have never in my life seen that. Holy shit.
Technically, there's no wrong answers here, except that one path leads to expensive heart medications, but that's a bit outside the scope of this tutorial to beat a children's video game. So the order we get the photos is basically identical to the way that Weebles got them the first time, which I think is kind of cool. Some of the photos are pretty specific about what day you can get them, like the party photo at the end of spring year 3 and the hot springs photo in winter year 1. There's a bit of leniency on the wedding photo, but we tend to do it on summer 25 year 2, which is the day after the second swimming festival. It's the last possible Sunday you can get married and still have the baby in time for the evaluation. There's a couple of reasons we wait until the very last moment. And I'll explain this more when we get there. One has to do with happiness, and the other one has to do with your wife losing affection every single day once you're married, and that'll happen in the game too. Another two that are very specific are Ellie's and Karen's photos on fall 7 and fall 9th. Anne's photo is less specific, but it's only triggered in winter and it has to be year 1. The two biggest changes from that original Christmas Miracle run are Potpourri's photo, which can be done basically whenever you want, and Maria's photo, which is usually pushed to year 2 because we're otherwise wasting affection points from the balloon photo and the second flower festival. The other festival photos are pretty consistent since you get them on specific festival days. We do the cow festival year 2 because it's a fall festival and you can't steal Doug's cows until winter. The balloon photo is also year 2 because you have to win the coin the previous year. You can always do it in year 3 if you sleep through it the first time or something, but you won't get the affection for Maria. The swim festival is worth going to both years. If you get the photo the first year, you'll get a bundle of lumber the second year, and combined with the dog race awards, it's enough to build all of the extensions. Well, almost. It's one piece short since the lumber bin caps at $9.99 instead of $1,000. And I'm saying this because actually a really easy thing to miss, especially in Japanese when the carpenter shows up and you can't tell what he's saying and he's angry all the time and you're like, great, you started building the staircase. But what he actually said, if you could read it, was, dude, you're one piece of lumber short. I'm going back home. And you can imagine how that turned out.
Am I missing 2? Wait, what did I miss? I missed the whole photo. I have no idea what it is.
Speaking of extensions, that photo is usually the last one, since we buy the last bit of lumber at the dog race year 2. Pretty sure everybody waits until year 2 to win the dog race. You can try to get this photo year 1, but you really want to split up winning enough medals for the lumber and winning the dog race into separate years. The horse race should also be done in year 2, but I've seen it done in the first year. You've got to buy the brush super early and then remember to actually use it, and then you have to have enough luck to have the high rod horses in your race. It's not recommended, but it can be done. Overall, it's only about 1 or 2 photos per season, so it's not that overwhelming. What you'll come to learn is it's not so much the photo requirements that make it difficult so much as it is the unforgiving nature of the game, mostly due to how the save system works. So let me talk about that for a minute. Basically, we have 4 save files to work with, and these 2 buttons on the right that I never had reason to use in a casual playthrough. A delete will obviously delete a file, and move, less obviously, will duplicate a file. So this is our primary way of creating backup saves, since the standard saving system is inconvenient to say the least. The only opportunity to save is writing on the diary, which ends the current day. Loading up that save will take you to the start of the next day, which is inconvenient if you just made a fatal error, because the old data is now overwritten, and you load in just after that moment it's too late to go back and fix it. Maybe you triggered the dream event too early, or you got sick on an important day, or you're just running on autopilot, doing some mental math with affection points, and wait a second, was that fall 7th?
Please do not have saved. I don't think I took the card out in time. God damn it, I slept through Karen's photo.
Unless you duplicated your file on a previous day, your run's over. Now, if that duplicate file was from a month ago or a year ago, it's really up to you to decide if it's really worth it or not. There's no problem with duplicate files, even if you erase or overwrite the original. We do it all the time, as long as that duplicate file is from the original. Easy enough, right? The timer starts when you open a blank diary. Holding B makes the text scroll faster, and this will apply just about everywhere else in the game, except for some of the photo cutscenes. Press and start moves the hand directly to the OK button, so the sequence here is AA start A. You're going to want to hold B through all of these naming screens, which doesn't sound so bad until you actually look at the N64 controller. I'm not sure if there's a standard way to hold this thing, but using your thumb to hold down the B button while you tap the A button is probably not the best way to do it. What I like to do is keep my thumb dedicated to the A button, and then use my index finger to either hold B or hit C up. The right hand takes the analog stick and the start button.
So then, this is bear claw.
I think we all have a different way of doing it, so there's no right or wrong way. This is just what works for me. This setup helps with quick menuing too. In the start menu, the hand always starts in the upper left, so you can get to any other square with a combination of rights and downs. By sharing the load between two fingers, you can get the inputs in a lot faster than just using your left thumb to move the analog stick, and you don't want to tire out your thumb in the first 10 minutes. For the first 2 seasons, the main focus is on NPC affections. 3 of the girl photos have to be done in year 1, and it makes sense to work toward the party 10 at the same time. One of the requirements for the party photo is 10 NPCs, not including your wife, showing up at the evaluation. Basically, it just means affection greater than or equal to 160. The first 3 are Karen, Anne, and Maria, since we get them at 200 for their photos anyway. We don't count Potpourri since we don't need any affection for her photo, and not Ellie since she's obviously the best wife, and wife doesn't count toward the party 10. 4 more come from glitches that bypass the usual 1 gift and talk per day rule, and Rick gets 3 affection per music box fixed, so he's basically at the requirement anyway. The other 2 are player's choice, and just about every NPC is a potential party guest, except for the carpenters, some special event characters, and a couple of others. If you're just going for completion, it really doesn't matter who you choose. For the speedrun, we're looking for NPCs that take the least amount of time. The limiting factor is that we only get 1 of each type of affection boost per day. SCG's guide does a good job of explaining the basic rules here so that I don't have to. Just pause it and read it if you need to. With a few exceptions I'll get to later, we have to take multiple trips to each NPC, which means that the best party members for the speedrun either require fewer trips or a shorter travel distance. There's 4 NPCs that fit this description. Currently all the top times use Jeff and Kai, but Cliff and the Mayor have just as much potential. There's no one NPC that's better than the rest, and if the RNG is pushing you one way or another, don't fight it.
It was when I started this run, I had every intention of doing Cliff Kai again. I changed my mind in the middle of the first spring.
I'll start with Jeff because he's the easiest to explain. Meat talking gift values are 612 with an extra 3 points if the gift is milk. No bonus for the recipe. He's always in the bakery except Mondays, but all you really need to know is that there's a 50% chance he shows up at the bar, and if Ellie's at 150 or above, you get a choice. The second option gives him +5, and with the initial +2 for talking, he gets a total affection boost of +7. Leaving and re-entering resets the flags, and you can get that +7 boost as many times as you want until the bar closes at midnight. Just be careful with the button mashing because that first option is -10. The best time to do it's on Winter 4 when we're staying up all night anyway, but the Bridge and Hot Springs workdays aren't so bad since you warp to 3 p.m. The cutoff's when you get married because Jeff doesn't ask anymore since the answer's pretty obvious. Alright, next up is Kai. The meat talking gift values are 8, 2, and 3 with an extra 3 points if the gift is a berry, a mango, or grapes. The recipe bonus is actually -1 the first time you give him a berry. Now these are pretty high for affection values, and he gets +8 for each swim festival you win. You can also get a cheeky +20 for refusing Karen's ankle event. Karen will lose 30 points, but just show her the dog a couple of times, she'll be fine. Kai is always either in the vineyard or in the wine cellar, but that's also the downside. The vineyard's a bit out of the way. It's one of the laggiest areas in the game, and besides Karen's events, there's no other reason to go there. And good luck getting Kai to stop talking. He goes on and on and on and on and on. The good news is the berry grows right next to the tent, and after the flower festival, a shortcut to the village opens up. The invisible ball just stops loading in until you reset the console. But in summer, his favorite gift moves to the cave, so you're trading one thing for another. I'd still recommend him for a beginner, or if you don't mind trading a little bit of time for consistency. On the other end of the spectrum is Cliff. Cliff is complicated. His meat talking gift values are 5, 2, and 4, with an extra 4 points if the gift is milk or eggs, and the recipe bonus is +1. Now I have to clarify that by meat, I mean when you give him food when he first shows up on the farm. He does have a unique dialogue, but that gives affection points to Gray. Now, Cliff only works if you're doing the chicken route, and he's still a high-risk, high-reward strategy. His favorite gift appears on the farm, and except for Mondays, his location isn't nearly as far off the routing path as the vineyard is. On the other hand, he doesn't show up until the 18th, and even then, there's often a 50% chance he doesn't appear at all. And it's that inconsistency that makes us hesitant to choose him. Cliff's travel distance is shorter than Kai's, and his affection bonus is higher than Kai's, but it's only faster if he actually shows up.
Alright, no Maria. And no Cliff. Wow.
So I know I said the mayor's the 4th guest, but truth is there's several that could fit this spot for different reasons. The mayor has almost 0 travel distance, since his locations are on the usual routes, and he gets +3 for any gift, just whatever you happen to have in your pocket. He even has a spam that's not really worth the time for a speedrun, but on summer 9th, he's outside the square, and if you talk to him, you'll get +2. If you leave and re-enter the screen, you can get that +2 again as many times as you want. It's just not worth the time for a speedrun. Now, I don't want to leave you thinking that these are your only options, because we debate about the best party guest more than we debate about best wife. Our strategies change all the time. If I give you a list now, it's going to be out of date next week.
The final party guest, which you can pretty much switch between Kai, Cliff, or Harris.
I will mention the Basil Lilia combo because it's a good marathon safety strat, since Basil gives you the power berry at 200 affection. But the truth is that who you choose isn't nearly as important as how you go about doing it. No, I'm going to move on before this video becomes a party guest video, but the affection values are listed in SCG's guide and on the Harvest Moon 64 strategy wiki page. For the casual players out there, the good news is that getting the photos isn't nearly as hard as it used to be. I still remember when the party photo was impossible to get, but only because nobody knew how to get it. All we had to work on were these rumors, a lot of which are still floating around out there today. Don't the sprites feed the cows during a typhoon?
No! You moron!
A cow that's inside and isn't fed only has a 50% chance of getting sick, but I understand how it feels like a miracle. Well, I saw on Reddit that I can protect the greenhouse from a typhoon if I... The Invincible Katori, the Lucky Bracelet, putting your dog inside, none of that affects whether or not the greenhouse blows away in a typhoon, but you can visit the greenhouse before you build it. It doesn't have any use in any category, but it's useful to know if you ever do need it. Stand so the vertical line of the corner runs right through the middle of your head, and then run straight down while mashing the A button. The trigger's a few paces down, but there's no physical object to clip into. Like, why hasn't that one made its way around the rumor mill? That's super cool. Sorry, what's that?
I heard that running your horse around the farm increases its stamina.
Yeah. It sure does, since the affection and stamina values are the same, and jumping on the horse gives him 1 affection point, whistling gives him 1 point, and brushing him will give him 2. The catch is that the horse also loses 1 affection per day, no matter what you do. But running the horse around the farm, or whistling your dog so he runs up against the table, none of that's real, since you only get the affection boost once per day per action. My point is, these days we know enough about what's going on in the background that if someone doesn't get a photo or an expected event,
Yay!
it's usually the party photo. It's not a game over unless you saved on spring 30th. You just go through the list of requirements until you see the one you forgot to do.
Oh, it was.
Yep, it was happiness.
It was happiness. Okay. All right, you got me. You got me. It was happiness.
So if we know so much about the game's inner workings and the specific photo requirements, why hasn't anyone come out with a season-by-season guide yet? Well, there's 2 reasons. I'll start with the weather mechanics because it's easier to explain, and if you've played a farming game before, you already have an idea of how it works. Every day will be one of 3 possible weather types. Typhoons only happen in the summer, and in winter, rain will appear as snow, but the mechanics are the same. The 2 big things that change in rainy weather are NPC locations and animal sickness, but I'm going to cover both of these in a bit more depth later. Rainy days will water the crops, but only the ones already planted. Any seeds planted on a rainy day will have to be manually watered. On the other hand, festival days will always be sunny, but if the Weather Channel predicted rain, the crops will still get watered, even though it looks like a sunny day. The Bachelorette sick events are rain only. It's a +10 affection boost for each girl, if you can get the right variables to line up. The first time you enter a girl's house, when it's raining and she's at least 120 affection, you'll get a unique event where she's sick in bed, even if you literally just talked to her a second ago. Talking to her here doesn't do anything, you get the affection boost just for triggering the event. There's no other prereq for Ellie or Karen's sick events, but Maria's only triggers on a Monday, and Anne's only triggers on a Sunday. The other thing to be aware of is that rain activates the fatigue mechanic, which isn't usually a problem in speedruns since we end the day so early, but if you use a tool when it's raining or after 6 p.m., a hidden value will increment by +1, or +2 if you're tilling with a hoe. And if that value is at 100 or more when you go to sleep, you'll be sick the next day. Be especially careful if you're going to the mines. You don't really think about the weather when you're underground, but you are technically tilling with a hoe on a snowy day, and without Capizberry, it only takes 50 swings to go from 0 to that 100. You can get Capizberry by throwing the large fish into a pond by the tent. It's one of 6 berries you'll need for the party photo. This berry decreases the fatigue penalty to 0 for all tools except for the hoe, which is still +1. Anything less than a large fish, and it'll give you a blueberry instead, which looks cool, I guess, but it doesn't actually do anything.
Whoa! This is worthless.
It's less than worthless, my boy.
There's 2 distinct memory values associated with weather, the current day and the forecast for tomorrow. Every night, the forecast weather is copied into the current weather spot, and a new forecast is generated. If you write in the diary, both of these values get locked into that save file. So if you want a certain day to be sunny, you have to choose not to write in that diary 2 days before. If you want the technical details, it's determined by a random number generator for a byte value. Return value 0 to 170 means sunny, 171 to 255 means rainy, and in summer, 240 to 255 is a typhoon. This means that the odds of a typhoon are about 16 to 1, and the odds of rain are about 2 to 1. If you visit the goddess pond and throw on a crop, there's an option to wish for weather. Let me set all the rumors straight here. All this does is limit the maximum value to 180, which eliminates the possibility of a typhoon and drops the odds of a rainy day to about 17 to 1. There's a lot of things we need to get done the first season, but the order we do them is up to you. If you look at the top 4 runs, you can see that we're already taking different paths barely 60 seconds in because we all like to do things in a different order. I can give you a list of things to do in Spring Year 1, and I can tell you what order I prefer doing them in, but it doesn't mean it's the best way for you. For instance, I like putting the scythe in the toolbox first thing every run because you don't need it, and I know that if I don't do it right then I'll forget to do it later because of who I am as a person.